I noticed it first with the cereal. Not missing. Not empty. Just slightly lighter than I remembered leaving it. I told myself I was imagining things. Then the milk started disappearing faster than I could drink it. Then one morning I found my blue jacket hanging on the wrong hook. I hadn't worn it in 3 weeks, but it smelled like sweat. Fresh sweat. Not mine. My name is James Holloway. I'm 35 years old. I live alone in a 4-bedroom house on the edge of town. Lived alone. Or at least, that's what I believed for 7 months. Let me tell you about my house first. I bought it 18 months ago. Old colonial. High ceilings. The kind of place that settles at night in ways that take getting used to. The previous owner had lived there for 30 years. Died quietly at 84. No family. No estate sale. Just a house full of old furniture and the particular smell of someone else's decades. I renovated slowly. Painted walls. Replaced floors. Kept the bones. I worked from home mostly. Software consulting. Long hours. Headphones in. Coffee going cold on my desk. My routine was predictable. Coffee at 7. Work until 2. Run at 3. Cook dinner. Sleep by 11. I knew this house the way you know something you've chosen carefully. Every creak. Every draft. Every shadow at different times of day. Or I thought I did. First anomaly. 7 months ago I came home from a weekend trip and found my kitchen window unlocked. I was certain I had locked it. I checked everything else. Nothing disturbed. Nothing missing. I locked the window. Told myself I had been careless. Forgot about it by morning. Second anomaly. 5 months ago I started finding small things slightly displaced. My desk chair rolled 2 inches from where I left it. A book moved to the wrong shelf. My bathroom soap on the left side of the sink instead of the right. I started sleeping badly. I told my doctor I thought I was developing OCD. He smiled and said stress did strange things to memory. I believed him. I started double-checking everything before bed. Chair position. Soap placement. Desk surface. Every morning something was slightly wrong. I stopped mentioning it to anyone. Because when you tell people your soap keeps moving they look at you a specific way. I recognized that look. I didn't want it again. Third anomaly. I couldn't explain this one away. I came home at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday. Walked into my bedroom. My bed was made. I never make my bed. Not once in 18 months had I made that bed. I stood in the doorway for a long time. The sheets were pulled tight. Pillow centered. Exactly the way my mother used to make beds when I was a child. I checked every room. Every closet. Every door. Nothing. But standing in my kitchen that night, I felt something I hadn't felt since I moved in. I was not alone in this house. I just couldn't prove it yet. I didn't call the police. What would I say? My bed was made. My soap moved. My cereal is lighter. Instead, I did what I always do with problems that don't have obvious solutions. I became methodical. I bought 4 small cameras. Installed them myself. Living room. Kitchen. Hallway. Facing the front door. I also did something else. I placed thin pieces of transparent tape across 3 interior doors. Bottom corner. Invisible unless you knew where to look. Then I left for work the next morning like nothing had changed. By 11 a.m., my phone showed motion alerts from the kitchen camera. My hands went completely still on my keyboard. I opened the feed. The kitchen was empty, but the cereal box was moving. Not falling. Not sliding. Being lifted. By hands that came from the hallway. Hands that stepped carefully around the corner and stopped the moment they reached the edge of the camera's view. Like they knew exactly where the frame ended. I forgot how to breathe. I sat at my desk in my office 12 minutes from home, staring at a live feed of someone in my kitchen. Someone who knew my camera angle. Someone who had been watching me install them. I closed the laptop slowly, and I understood something that made the room feel very small. This person wasn't hiding from me carelessly. They were hiding from me professionally. I didn't go home immediately. I drove to a hardware store. Bought a motion sensor specifically designed for attic spaces. The kind used in commercial properties. Because I had checked every room. Every closet. Every door. But I had never checked the attic. The access panel was in the upstairs hallway ceiling. Original to the house. I had opened it once when I first moved in. Pulled down the folding ladder. Shone a flashlight into the dark. Old insulation. Old boxes from the previous owner. Nothing interesting. Put it back. Never thought about it again. That night I came home at my normal time. Cooked dinner. Watched television. Went upstairs at 11 p.m. exactly like every other night. At 11:30 I turned off my bedroom light. At 12:15 I heard it. Above me. One slow step. Then another. Deliberate. Careful. Moving toward the east side of the house. Above my bedroom. I lay completely still. Eyes open in the dark. Heart loud in my ears. Something moved directly above my head. Then stopped. I didn't move for 40 minutes. Then I got up slowly. Walked to the hallway. Looked up at the attic panel. The sensor light was red. Active motion. Something was up there right now. I called the police at 1 a.m. 2 officers arrived within 12 minutes. I showed them the camera footage. The sensor reading. The displaced objects. They took it seriously in the way police take things seriously when the evidence is undeniable. One officer pulled down the attic ladder. Shone his flashlight up. Then went very quiet. He looked down at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Mr. Holloway," he said carefully. "When did you last come up here?" "When I moved in," I said. 18 months ago. He nodded slowly. "You need to see this." I climbed up. The attic had been transformed. Not dramatically, not obviously, but in the far corner behind the old insulation, a sleeping area. Thin mattress, folded blankets, a small battery-powered lamp, and beside it, boxes, organized, labeled, in handwriting I didn't recognize. Food supplies, water bottles, a small first aid kit, a calendar on the wall with dates marked in red, my work schedule, my running route, my weekly grocery trips, every pattern of my life documented and tracked. But that wasn't what stopped me. What stopped me was the photographs pinned to the wooden beam above the mattress. Dozens of them. Of me. Sleeping. Cooking. Working. Reading. Taken from above. Through gaps in the ceiling boards. Months of photographs. And in the corner of every single one, a small reflection. A second face. Not mine. I leaned closer. The face was old. Female. Eyes sharp despite the age. I recognized her from the single photograph I had found in the house when I moved in and kept on my mantle because I thought it was a nice gesture. The previous owner. The woman who had supposedly died 18 months ago. The woman whose house this had been for 30 years. She hadn't died. She had just moved upstairs. She was arrested that night. 84 years old. Sharp eyes. No apology. When the officer asked her why, she said something that has stayed with me every day since. "This is my house," she said simply. "I just let him think it was his." The investigation revealed everything. Her family had sold the house without her consent while she was briefly hospitalized. A legal dispute she had lost. A home she had refused to leave. She had been living in that attic since 3 weeks after I moved in. Watching me build my life in her space. Using my food. Wearing my jacket when I was away. Making my bed the way she had made beds for 60 years out of habit she couldn't break. She knew my cameras, because she had watched me install every one of them. She knew my schedule, because she had been studying it for 7 months. She wasn't dangerous, but I haven't slept through the night since, because dangerous isn't really the point. The point is that for 7 months I came home to what I believed was my space, my silence, my solitude, and every single night, someone was above me, listening to every phone call, watching through the gaps in the boards, existing in the negative space of my life. The house sold quickly after that. I didn't negotiate the price. I just needed to leave. I live in an apartment now. 6th floor. No attic. No crawl space. No previous owner with 30 years of attachment and nowhere else to go. But I still do one thing every single night before I sleep. I look up at the ceiling and I listen, because once you know that the space above your head can hold a life you didn't know about, You never fully stop wondering what else exists in the parts of your world you forgot to check.